We started CosmosGreen a decade ago with one pertinent question. Why is farming in India synonymous with poverty when food is a necessity? We applied first principle thinking in this journey to discover answers. We have the humility to understand things the way they are and audacity to imagine things the way they could be. I grew up in an Indian middle class household. I spent my initial few years playing in those streets of the small town, grew up for part of my life in villages where my grandfather used to do farming back then. I remember making a visit to my village. I noticed something quite unusual. A farmer was sitting next to a farm stream and eating mud from the ground. That didn't seem right. I was super angry, helpless. Then I went back and shared this with my grandfather. So my grandfather was a freedom fighter. He knew so much about India, Indian history. He wasn't surprised at all. He said, this happens all the time. So he just made it sound very normal. That was when I realized the problem was much bigger than what I just saw in that one moment. When you see something wrong, it is important to understand the root cause before you decide to act on it.
When we were in college, I think the real start of CosmosGreen idea began there. One of the things that kind of went quite hard into our mind was the story of Amul Cooperative. Both of us wondered that if Amul Cooperative was such a big success, why is it that we didn't come up with more rural models? I think somewhere there we both thought that there can be a model in the rural India.
The question that hit me when I was doing my internship with PricewaterhouseCoopers as a part of my chartered accountancy was, how can the best brains in the world keep growing up with this narrative that the ones who are fit for nothing are the ones who will go back and do farming, and how will we feed the world? And somewhere fundamentally the math didn't add up. Somebody who is doing farming, how can they be so poor? How can they just say farming is a failed profession? A journey to search answers for that got me to travel to quite a few places even when I was doing my PwC.
And we started traveling to a lot of villages. I personally never had a rural background. Sathya had his grandparents who were into farming. We were still doing our jobs, and every weekends we used to go to one or the other village and talk to people, talk to farmers. What are their problems? What are they going through? This went on for a few months.
But I think about 3.5 years into PwC, I clearly realized that if I want to really find a way to meaningfully invest my time into understanding the problem, let alone solving it, I can't do that if I'm just doing a job.
In 2011, there was an agriculture workshop which was happening on the outskirts of Chennai. Mr. Raghu was a retired director from Indian Oil Corporation. And this gentleman saw Sathya and he was like, who is this young boy in this agriculture workshop? And when they came to know that, the goal is quite similar. Mr. Raghu wanted to do something for smallholder farmers. Sathya and I had decided to do something in rural India.
Mr. Jayaraman was another mentor who backed us when we started up. And Mr. Ramkrishna, who was my boss in PwC, he was truly game changer for us. He was the first one to have made that biggest bet on us when we did not study agriculture. When we just had this zest to do something meaningful in this space, he was the one who got us started. And our first project in agriculture was in Raichur in about 140 acres.
That was the team CosmosGreen. The Mullur project at Raichur was a big learning experience for us. We indulged ourselves into actual farming for the first time. There were a lot of new things that we were doing. Right from milking in the morning, to going to the fields, harvesting our crop. Everything was a new experience. Honestly, we still did not have a clear business idea or the business model. But I think what we were clear was we want to learn agriculture, we want to understand the problems of agriculture, and then figure out what could be the possible solutions.
Here are the questions we asked ourselves. Why is it that farming is synonymous with a loss-making venture? Why do 100 million smallholder farmers lose money from farming? This should change. Investing into technologies for the poor does not necessarily mean that it is a loss-making venture or a not-for-profit activity. There is a possibility to create a win-win-win ecosystem for the farmers, the investors who put in money, the environment, and of course, the beautiful planet that we all live in. As a solution, we came up with a possibility to hold large agricultural lands in a corporate structure. And these lands will be located in strategic places in the growth corridors. We created a vehicle for investment which is procedurally tight, regulatorily strong, and administratively easy. Focus on growing high-value fruits and vegetables using climate-smart technologies. And the good learnings from this should be shared with the smallholder farmers at large. It is possible to create a win-win game, and the search for that is CosmosGreen.
Slowly the project took shape and we realized a barren piece of land with a lot of stones started turning green.
Fast forward, in about 3 years, we realized that that is a place which is more suitable for energy, not probably like the best place for agriculture. Today, about 48 megawatt of renewable power is produced from that farm, which is where we fundamentally learned the basics of agriculture.
One of the biggest learning for us at the Mulur project was that you do a lot of hard work, and suddenly because of a big rain or because of an extreme heat, your complete crop actually can go bad just in one day. And that is where we started realizing the real impact of climate change.
A few years later, we were able to get a better understanding of the problem statement. The problem statement basically was that farming is not viable. We have to find a way to make it viable. And solving that problem means the average income should increase. Income should be regular from farming, and income should be predictable. So this is how we felt the math of agriculture, which did not make sense, can have a sensible solution. Largely to increase the incomes, we did our homework, and definitely vegetable farming could increase the incomes, and they could also give regular incomes. That journey got us to start our next project, which is in Depalli. First time when we came into this farm, there were only 4 trees. Today there are tens of thousands of trees, and more than 70 varieties of crops have been grown in that land. It's one of the technology hubs for agriculture, where more than 8,000 farmers from different parts of the country came to learn the scientific way in which farming can be done in a way which is environmentally friendly and also economically viable. In collaboration with Kheti, we designed these micro greenhouses which cut off heat, prevent bugs from entering, and they save water. Today, this technology, which started from our Depalli farm, has reached thousands of smallholder farmers across the country. And this is something that we are incredibly proud of. This is exactly the kind of ethos for which and with which we started CosmosGreen. So we should not only make money but also do good. So technology which is helping us get good returns in our farms is now going into farms of many more smallholder farmers. Crops which earlier used to suffer in open field today grow very well, pretty much year long, in these beautiful micro greenhouses.
Seen the success of the solution for growing vegetables and flowers in climate smart farming, this was the time we started thinking about embarking on another journey. And that was when we started conceiving the idea of the project at Veltour. We thought, in this project that we are embarking, let us see how we can focus on climate smart farming for fruits, sustainable animal husbandry, alongside working on afforestation. From when we conceived the idea of Veltour project to now, it's very heartening to see how things are coming into place. When we see its proximity from Hyderabad, which is about 100 minutes from its financial district. When we get off the highway, within 10 minutes we are into the farm. The farm happens to be at a place where there is a water body which is about 350 acres, which is abutting our land. And then this is an investment opportunity which is friendly and viable.
Our initial partners invested in our project 2. Our investors of project 2 are now also investing in project 3. So this is a wonderful win-win game for our investors and partners, and as well as for CosmosGreen and for the community that we are developing together.
Who is this investment ideal for? We look for partners who are senior corporate professionals or entrepreneurs or celebrities who are interested in having an agricultural land and an agriculture project as a part of their investment portfolio. Based on our experience, we recommend that not more than 25% of the portfolio should be invested. Willingness to own a farm, but no time and expertise to buy and run that. Third, keen to stay invested, at least for about 5 years. That's a kind of a timeline which ensures that you get good returns. Fourth, clean professional and personal track record. Going back to our values, our partners should have the willingness to do what is right, not just what is easy. And finally, alignment with our larger motto of do good and make money. Sure, by doing nothing on the land, just by investing into an agricultural land and holding that barren land, probably somebody may earn a little more agricultural return or a capital appreciation from that. But the partners who work with us believe that making money is important, also doing good in the world is equally important.
When I was exposed to this opportunity where farming is the concept, I grabbed it because I wanted to do my bit.
It looked like a good alternative investment in some kind of an ESG fund. You are doing your part for a green earth. At the same time, there is an expectation of a reasonable return down the line. So these are the main reasons why we invested in CosmosGreen's Well-Tour project.
Sustainable agriculture is something that we've been passionate about. Charu does a lot of organic farming at home.
I just thought that the approach that they'd taken was very innovative, right? They clearly brought technology from potentially places like Israel, but the fact that they'd adapted it to Indian conditions was fascinating. And for me, the R&D that Katie does on CosmosGreen is also a very fascinating way for them to use the land, make progress on some hard problems, at the same time give value back to the investors. So that's really what brought us to Cosmos.
The investment process was fairly straightforward. There was some paperwork to be done, which wasn't very difficult to do.
For us, CosmosGreen felt like a good place to leave our money as it grew. So that was also another big part. I think both the reliability and the trust that we were able to establish with Cosmos. Yeah.
The game changes when we view farm as a portfolio. We call it farmfolio. In times when most people are migrating from villages to cities, we need to step back and ask ourselves this question. Why is it important for us to get back to our roots? How can profitable farming happen? By being gentle on the resources consumed. Why is farming becoming fashionable across the world? An agricultural land generates excellent returns if done well. And being in the nature is one of the happiest and the easiest ways to create a better relationship with yourself and overall improve your well-being. This is of course future relevant because you are investing your time and resources into building an organic community which over time is going to become increasingly important. At CosmosGreen, we not only believe in making agriculture profitable, but we also believe that this agriculture should generate good for hundreds and thousands of smallholder farmers across the country and hopefully across the world.
నా పేరు లక్ష్మి. మేము 5 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి ఇక్కడనే పనిచేస్తుంటాం. నేను మా ఆయన మధ్యనే సంవత్సరం మొన్నటికి వరకే చనిపోయిండు. ఇంకా పిల్లలకు కూడా వెళ్ళిపోయేసి ఉన్నారు మేడం వాళ్ళు. పిల్లలు మంచిగా ఉన్నారు. బయట కూడా పని చేసే వాళ్ళము. అక్కడ వేసుకుని కూడా ఇక్కడ వస్తాము. బయటకంటే ఇక్కడ మంచిగా మర్యాద ఇస్తారు, మంచిగా పిలుస్తారు. ఏ ప్రాబ్లం ఉండదు. అందరికి ఎట్లా పని చెప్పాలని అట్లా పిలుస్తారు సార్లు కూడా. ఇక్కడ పని చేయడం మాకు చాలా సంతోషంగా ఉంది.
I got associated with Kisan Sevaks Foundation in 2015. The objective of Kisan Sevak Foundation is to make sure that all the children in the village are getting proper education. Literacy rate in the village has improved. more and more students are coming to the school, and more students are able to make it to the English medium school. Kisan Sevaks और Cosmos Green का जो goal alignment है, which is very similar. These both organizations are working for the benefit of farmers and of course their children.
After a couple of hours, which extended to a couple of days of introspection, I took the very easy decision of farming with Sathya. I could have made my career into investment banking. I could have had a great job. Now, getting off track, getting your feet dirty, literally, was an amazing experience for me. I started watching farmers in the fields, and slowly I put my foot into the soil. Now, ever since then, I envisioned a nation where our lives are linked to their livelihoods.
This beautiful cocktail of life is incomplete without feet in the mud. With the increased gap between soil and humans, the empathy in us is coming down. Once upon a time, we lived a life rich in heritage and culture. The farmlands were the best gifts parents gave their children. This was our agriculture. Farming was the way in which we truly learnt our culture. We have to learn from our mistakes of distancing ourselves from the nature. And we still have it in us. After all, nature is a part of our DNA. I am hopeful that we will pass on this important asset to our next generations.
Rama